Nigel Farage, says he's a free spirit who hates having to be escorted by bodyguards. But he said he needs protection because anti-fascist groups such as Unite Against Fascism and Hope Not Hate are acting violently at UKIP meetings. Mr Farage also said that the two groups receive government money and have ties to the Labour Party. UAF and Hope Not Hate deny using violence, and UAF say they do not receive taxpayer cash. Here's the UKIP leader speaking to Andrew on the Sunday Politics yesterday.
Sadly, we have a couple of organisations out there, headed up by senior Labour Party figures, who purport to be against fascism and extremism, who receive funding from a Department of the Communities, who receive funding from trade unions, who have acted in a violent way more than once. And
oh, sorry, you're saying the Labour Party is behind these threats?
No, I said Unite Against Fascism and Hope Not Hate are taxpayer funded, they are trade union funded, and they're headed up by very senior Labour Party figures. And I'm perfectly happy for them to come to my meetings and have an argument with me. But it's not so much fun when they're banging you overhead with banners.
Well, that was Nigel Farage there, and joining us now is Wayman Bennett, Joint National Secretary of Unite Against Fascism, and Suzanne Evans, UKIP's Communities spokesperson. Welcome to both of you. Wayman, have any of your members acted violently or threateningly to Mr Farage when he's appeared in public?
Absolutely, that's not the case. We have questioned him, which is unfortunately the reality. If you stand as a major politician and want to win elections, the public and the electorate are allowed to question you. And some of the things that he's said, we believe he's defended homophobic comments, as he did yesterday. Mr Helmner said that there's a problem with same-sex marriage. We reject this. We also believe the adverts are racist. Now, if you do unpopular things like that, then people will come and question you, and that's what's happened. And when questioning, has it been in an intimidating way? Have you acted in, or not you, but members acted aggressively towards Nigel Farage? According to the polls, 22% of people consider UKIP to be a racist party. That adds up to something like 17 million people. But that wasn't the question I asked. Right. Did any of the members, when they were posing these questions, totally legitimately, as you say, did they do it in an intimidating way or anything that Nigel Farage could have perceived as being aggressive? I think no, and people came and said, I'm gay and I'm here, I'm in mixed race relationships and I'm happy to be in there. Maybe Nigel finds that intimidating, and that's the problem, I think, with UKIP. Right. What do you say to that, Suzanne Evans? Would you like to retract your leader's claim that actually members of the organisation have acted violently towards him, because it's been denied?
No, because they absolutely have, and Nigel's bodyguards tell me a very, very different story. Mr Bennett here has himself been arrested on conspiracy for inciting violence in the past. Just last year, 58 of his supporters were arrested en masse. Violence seems, unfortunately, to follow this group around, whether we like it or not, and I certainly don't like it. On Wednesday night, I'd seen it all, Joe, finally, when supporters of this man and his organisation stood up and assaulted verbally our speakers at a conference on Wednesday night. They stood up and called a black 60-year-old Jewish woman racist. They called her racist scum. They had to be ejected from the meeting. I have seen it all. This group is not anti-fascist. It is about as fascist as it comes. It's consistently trying to close down free speech and democracy and does it in a very violent way.
Well, let's get your response to that, and we'll come back to the actual...
Let's be absolutely clear. I don't consider UKIP to be a fascist organisation, but I do consider them to be pushing racist ideas and pushing the idea that if your neighbours from Eastern Europe, or if they're black sometimes, or if they're Muslim, that there's a problem with that. And 3 candidates have made this statement. One candidate said that he thought that same-sex marriages had caused the floods. Mr Perman, a candidate...
Look, all I can say is the first 4 men I met since I joined UKIP,
let's finish and we'll come back to you.
Firstly, you know, the question of being verbally assaulted is being questioned. That's what it's called. When you ask me a question, that's not verbal assault. That's questioning the nature of our organisation. I think the defensiveness of UKIP is because they have got something to hide, and I think their policies of pushing division is something which we have to reject, and that's part of the problem. We've turned up gay, black and from different communities and questioned Nigel, and I don't believe that is violent. Right, well, we need to clarify here, Suzanne, when you said you've seen or heard this from the bodyguards, verbal assault is not the same, is it, as physical assault or being intimidated in a physical way? Let's talk about physical assault. The man that hit Nigel Farage over the head with a placard in Margate was definitely from that group. Was a supporter of Hope Not Hate, which are closely affiliated with Unite Against Fascism. The same for the gentleman that's on bail at the moment for egging Nigel Farage. Again, another violent assault. Right, let's not talk about things that are actually going through the court at the moment, but you are saying that there is evidence you've seen members actually doing things that could be construed or could be seen in that way. Let's be clear. Nigel Farage is not as popular as he'd like to be, right? Lots of people...
But
every politician.
Yes,
no,
but
that's
that doesn't
true,
mean
but
that he necessarily deserves, obviously, to be...
Nobody has argued at all that he should be violently assaulted. What we've said is that the politics of UKIP are encouraging racism, division, which I believe leads to real violence, actually.
So why are 12% of the public who are non-white voting for UKIP, as opposed to only, 16% of non-white voters are voting for UKIP, as opposed to only 12% in the Conservatives or 1% in the Lib Dem, according to yesterday's Survation poll? Why are you not attacking other parties who also have racist candidates? We have former BNP members standing in for council in both the Labour and the Conservative Party. You've said nothing. You've kept absolutely stum on that issue.
Let's be clear, UKIP is the only party that has put forward the idea that the biggest problem facing Britain at the moment is immigration, and has run on that policy to the point where I believe that if you ask the... Can I just finish?
70%.
Can I just finish? The first point is there was a... The poll that you reported was also reported that 22% of people said that they consider UKIP to be a racist party.
Right,
78%.
Right. But what about
exactly.
the non-white candidates that are standing for the party? I mean, why would they be in a racist party?
I believe it's possible since we've, in some sense, I think that they represent. I think they're mistaken. They have made a mistake in representing...
Those people in the party...
Can I just finish with one quick point? You see, when Nigel Farage says that Enoch Powell is his hero, right?
He didn't say that.
He said you didn't say that. I said that Nigel Farage says that Enoch Powell is his
Nigel
hero.
Farage never said that. No, I don't think Nigel Farage ever said that.
While we have the sort of claim and counter-claim, what is your response to the fact that Nigel Farage thinks he needs protection?
Well, he clearly needs protection because he does get assaulted, so he clearly does need it. I think the main problem that the left has in campaigning against UKIP, and that UAF and Hope Not Hate have, is that they want them to be racist. They want to campaign against the BNP, and the problem is UKIP, for all I would never vote for them, aren't as extreme as the people campaigning against them want them to be. And the reality of campaigning against UKIP is that you have to campaign against them as you would the Tories or Labour or the Lib Dems, and fight people on their record. The reason why not enough people agree with what you're saying is because it doesn't chime with the reality of what people are seeing from UKIP. They don't feel like a racist party because they're not.
Right, what do you say to that?
Well, I think that if you openly say that you find gay relationships abnormal. Can I just finish? That is bigoted and reactionary, right? And of course,
does it mean that there should be that sort of response? If that's
what I'm saying is that people have questioned them in a non-violent way. I'm not for platforming.
You're just picking out individual
can I just say,
tiny things that do not represent the party, and we made this very, very
you've
clear.
Made two allegations which are not true. You've made two allegations.
Criticised us.
Don't talk over each other because you can't hear. Let Wayman finish.
Would you accept that you referred to another organisation, right, that attacked Nigel Farage, but your leader has explicitly said that Unite Against Fascism has attacked people? I've said that's factually inaccurate. You've also said...
No, we've said you've incited violence, and let's not forget your arrest record on that.
Suzanne, let me ask you, though, I mean, Nigel Farage, as you yourself, has had to account for some views that you've called them idiots yourselves, that are expressed views that you don't like, and that... do you understand, to some extent, does provoke a very strong reaction?
Of course I do, Jo, but as I've said before, we don't have a level playing field. Similar candidates in other parties have said even worse things. You know, the Tory candidate, councillor, who talked about wanting to expel all Muslims from the country and destroy mosques. Awful, awful things. Did that ever appear on Unite Against Fascism's website? Were there any protests? Never.
Wait, can I also ask you, does your group have ties to the Labour Party and to trades unions?
Yes. Our organisation has ties to trade unions, to mosques, to churches, to Jewish groups, to lots of organisations. We're opposed to fascism. We don't consider UKIP to be a fascist party, but we're part of a campaign that says we should live in a society of tolerance and equality.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. But thank you both very much on that note of agreement at the end.